Okay, Keith here from Beat the Casino. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Blackjack, and I'm going to tie this into Baccarat too in the next video, which I think you'll find really interesting. But first off, in Blackjack, card clumping has been around for a long time. We first noticed it back in the late 80s, early 90s when we used to play clump-style Blackjack in Atlantic City with hand-shuffled games. So this is kind of a quick way to stand behind the table and get an idea of just the frequency or the clumping frequency in the game and base your hit stand decisions on the shoe you happen to be observing at that moment. So hopefully you'll find this interesting and you'll be able to utilize it to maximize your win rate and increase your hands-won ratio at the table. That's the whole goal of this, is to get your hands-won ratio higher in Blackjack. Okay, so why does this matter? All those great calculations of basic strategy, which over the long haul would give you an advantage, are based upon one thing that doesn't exist for the most part in every casino blackjack game, whether it's hand shuffled now or whether it's shuffled by machine, is it assumes randomness all the time. Now, with the possible exception of the continuous shuffle machines, they're generally, from what I've observed over the years, they're generally pretty random. But real shoes, even with the shuffle machine, sometimes actually show often pockets of clumping, like cards following like cards, where low cards occur more often to follow each other than they statistically should, and the same with high cards. When you run into pockets of clumps or non-randomness, the basic strategy play is not the optimum way to play the cards. Over the long haul it is, but however, since the shoe is finite and they're in the shoe and they're not going to change the cards, then there may be pockets in there of non-randomness that will hold. Now, it also depends, not so much when you're dealing with random cards. It doesn't matter how people play their hands, no matter what anyone says, when the cards are random. But when the cards are non-random and there's pockets of low cards following low cards and high cards following high cards, then it does matter how people play their hand, because they're going to either draw out high cards or they're going to draw out low cards at a frequency that normally wouldn't occur. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit further. So when you run into a pocket of low cards, and you've all seen them, you're sitting at a blackjack table and you have a 13 against a dealer 6 and you stand, and maybe there's a pat hand, but there's a couple other stiff hands on the table. And then the dealer turns over, let's say, an 8 and hits it 3 times to 21, where these low cards just continue and continue. The dealer can't break with low cards, with the rare exception of when they hit a 16 with a 6. And of course, that happens all the time, right? So you want to watch for these things. Same with high cards. I mean, how many times have you sat at the table and seen, well, here's my good 20, only to push with the dealer, or worse yet, the dealer turns over a blackjack? Have you ever actually looked at the table then and counted how many high cards are laying on the table if you're dealing or working in a face-up games? So there's evidence of this clumping, and it happens, time and time again. Sure, once in a while it happens by random chance, but it happens too often for it to be random chance sometimes. So that's what we're going to look at. And of course, on low card clumps, you're going to want to hit more. You're going to want to split less. You're going to want to double less. You're going to want to do all those things, all those high-risk plays that basic strategy tells you to make when the cards are random. And that's what we're going to talk about. Now, what you need to assess from behind the table, and what I'm going to teach you, what I used to do, is find out what is the clumping frequency of the game. And of course, it's an estimate, obviously. It's not exact all the time. And there'll be pockets of clumping, and there'll be pockets of randomness that you kind of have to differentiate between. And of course, the way you differentiate between pockets of randomness and pockets of non-randomness is you go, if you say, well, I don't know what's going on in here, then they're random and you want to play fairly close to basic strategy. If you hit a spot where you see pockets of non-randomness, where there's too many low cards in a round, too many low cards following low cards, too many high cards following high cards, or a propensity of high cards in a certain round, then of course you want to watch your doubles and splits again also. Because why? Not because you're going to get a 10 on a 10 or 11 when you double, but because the dealer's chance to break probably is diminished, and he's probably going to have a pat hand anyway. So more about that later. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next slide. Okay, so first we want to take a look at the adjusted categories. This is one of the ways to do it. This is probably one of the easiest ways. It's not a perfect balance split, but it's a good way to start, because all you have to remember is you don't count aces and eights, right? And that's always a rule that everyone knows in basic strategy, always split aces and eights. So this is a good one to start with. Like I said, now we're making estimates, so it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, which is why we're going against 6 cards against 5 cards. But let's say we're going to call our low cards 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and our high cards 9, 10, Jack, Queen, and King, of course, 10 value cards. Ignore aces and eights initially to start off. They have dual values. They can run with highs and they can run with lows, and they do. So when you refine your clumping strategy, we'll go ahead and group them with highs and lows. But for now, just forget them and just ignore them. And the sevens, they tend to run with lows, and they kind of act that way. They'll break some hands, but we're going to include them in lows to start. It's just a little bit easier to start that way. Okay, this is going to be a little bit easier than it sounds. It's a little hard to think about, but when you actually try it and you can practice it at home or do it in the casino, it's a little bit easier than you think. You're going to observe 1 to 2 rounds. 20 to 50 face-up cards in 1 to 2 rounds. You're going to remove all the aces and eights, and I know it's not a perfect split. A lot of folks like to count the aces high and low and then just remove the 8. That way they feel better about the perfect split, but either way is good. We'll just remove the aces and eights to start in this example. You're counting pairs, low lows, followed by high highs, or followed by mixed, a low and a high. And then you're going to calculate a clumping percentage, which is the low lows plus the high highs rounds or pairs of cards divided by the total number of pairs you watched. Now, it sounds a lot harder than it looks. And don't forget, you're standing behind the table and you have your phone too. So you can tell your phone, hey, what's 3 plus 5 divided by 15? Okay, so it's a real easy thing to do when you're watching 1 or 2 rounds. Also, too, if you have to watch 2 rounds, your left hand is going to keep track of the first round's low pairs, and your right hand is going to keep track of the first high rounds. So you may have a 4 and a 3 going in to watch the next round. One with the low pairs and one with the high pairs. And that way you can just add to it in the next round. It's going to make it a lot easier. Okay, let's say these are the visible cards on the table. 5 ace, 5 8, king 3 7, ace 10, 4 9, 2 6 7, so on and so forth. Step 1 is filter out the aces and eights. So then you have the remaining 5 king. Well, 5 and king, that's a mixed round. King 3, that's a mixed round. 7 10, that's a mixed round. 4 9, that's a mixed round. 2 6, oh, that's one low. 6 7, that's one low. 7 jack, that's mixed. So on and so forth. That's what you're thinking. So that's how you're pairing these cards. And remember, it's a little bit easier. You're looking at them on the table. So you're calculating, okay, as you're looking at the table, while people are hitting and making their hit stand decisions. And remember, this is sequential order of cards. It's not the first base player's 2 cards. It's sequentially how they were dealt is what we're looking at. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit easier in the casino, but anyway, here's the pairs. So we have a 5 and a king, of course that's mixed, and then the king and a 3, that's mixed. And then we have a low, a 3 and a 7 and a 10, that's mixed, a 10 and a 4, so on and so forth. You see the mixed pairs that we have totaling, I believe it's 16. So again, what you're going to do is you're going to keep track on your left hand with the low pairs and on the right hand with the high pairs. And of course, the mix, you just take a total of. So if you have to watch 2 rounds, you'll have your low pair total with your left hand and your high pair total with your right hand, and then count the total number of pairs. So it takes a little bit of mental gymnastics, but you do have your phone. You're standing behind the table, so you can use that. Anyway, taking a look at these pairs now, the tally is 3 low lows and 13 mixed for a total of 16. So you calculate your clumping percentage. 3 plus 0, that's the total number of low pairs and the total number of high pairs divided by the total number of pairs. Okay, it's going to come out to about 18.75 clumping percentage. It's pretty random, and you'll see this a lot. But the good thing about this is you can go to a lot of tables and you can kind of evaluate a lot of clumping frequency in each of the tables. You want to play real close to basic strategy if you go ahead and get in a game like this. If it's above 40, you want to go ahead and watch your doubles and splits. Basically, that's some mild clumping, and you can usually get a good advantage in those games. Be selective to reduce the high risk doubles and splits, but your hands-1 ratio will go up because you won't break as often, just like the dealer. So you can tend to hit a little bit more. Okay, if you're in one that's greater than 60%, you're going to tighten up. Probably you may not want to play that game from any position but first base and employ the first base strategy. You don't want to double and split. You don't want to do any of those things. Just basically, it's a hitter's game, so to speak. So watch out for those. But again, you're looking for something in the middle, like some mild clumping that you can exploit with some predictability for your doubles and your splits and your high bets from first base. Okay, so that's how you calculate the clumping frequency. And most of the games you're going to run into is just like we calculated. They're going to be below 40% of low cards following low cards and high cards following high cards. There are going to be a lot of mixed pairs, and you're going to see that right away. And eventually you'll develop some shortcuts that you really don't have to calculate it out. But again, you can use your phone if you have any sort of free AI or anything like that. Just tell it, hey, what's 3 plus 0 divided by 16 or whatever it happens to be. Take mental or take dictation notes with your phone. Just talk into it how many total rounds they are, and to get your calculations. It's pretty easy when you're standing behind the table. Okay, so just a couple tips as I kind of touched upon briefly. Use your left hand for the low count, your right hand for the high count, especially if you have to watch 2 rounds, if there's only like 3 players in the game or something like that, and you need to carry over to watch the next round before you decide to jump in the game. Spot streaks. If you have three plus low hands or high streaks in a row, you can basically assume that it's 60% clumping, and combined with the dealer break ratio, if you watch a few hands and determine how often the dealer's breaking, 1 in every 5, 1 in every 6 hands, you can pretty much get in the game and go ahead and hit quite a bit because the dealer's rarely going to break, but you're going to have the predictability of the cards that's going to help you a lot, and the ability to hit more without the fear of breaking also is going to help you too. And you can qualify your doubles and splits a lot better If you see clumps of high cards, then it's always better to double in those games. If you don't see clumps of high cards, then it's best not to double. So anyway, you kind of it's a subjective way to play. The more you practice it, the better you'll get at it, and you'll start to see these things almost automatically. It's kind of gets to be amazing where you're able to predict hole cards and hit cards in conjunction with all the other stuff that we talked about in Blackjack 101 and some of the stuff in here, the clumping frequency and determining that with a certain percentage is a real good way. You can edge it down a little bit to 35%. You got to kind of find your comfort zone, or you can edge it down to about 35% to a game that may have some clumping. Usually above 35, though, you want to kind of allow for some clumping. Below that, maybe just play close to basic strategy. So check out all the rules in Blackjack 101 with hit card anticipation, hole card read. All those things come into play. The break ratio of the dealer, watch 10 hands, how many times does he break? Keep that in mind. Of course, you'll probably be in the game at that point, so keep evaluating the dealer break ratio when you're in the game. Again, if you have to track 2 rounds, use your left hand. In this example, it says 17.6, it was 18.75. Play standard basic strategy. High clumping, tighten your play, avoid high risk moves, wait for the dealer breaks. Wait for the dealer breaks, but hit more. No need to count cards. Just watch for streaks into filtered low-high groups. And it's a great way to find the clumping frequency combined with all the other stuff. And I hope we get a good conversation about this. Also, to this non-randomness also pertains to Baccarat, which I'm going to do a little bit of that. I just started studying it. Well, I've been studying it for a while, but kind of hard to stay directed at it with all the directions we go and Beat the Casino. So I think you'll find that really interesting. I hope you like this. Add to it. Let me know your experiences with it. It's easy to play online. You can sit there with a pen and pencil if you have a live blackjack game, obviously. So anyway, thank you. Any comments below about blackjack or anything, let me know. And again, thanks for being a member of Beat the Casino and for your contributions. Again, this is Keith. Thanks a lot.